Hey guys, Dow Houston with Dow Houston Exchange Companies. What I want to talk about today is the same taxpayer requirement of a Section 1031 exchange. Okay, the same taxpayer requirement is that when you've got property titled in the relinquished property in one person or entity, that exchange take place in the name of that one person or multiple people, as the case may be, those person or entities, and the replacement property likewise be the same. Okay, so if it's titled in Joe on the relinquished property, the new property is taken as Joe, and the exchange agreement and the exchange documents reflect Joe is the exchanger. Now, that is pretty simple and straightforward. There's lots of times, however, that you've got to take other factors into consideration. And I want to make very, very clear, this is for discussion purposes only, okay? This is not to be relied on as legal advice. This is for discussion purposes only and should only be used for that, and it's only being provided for that. Okay, so let's say that Joe inherited property, but he's married to Barbara, and they just never changed title on the property, on the relinquished property, but it's really considered both of theirs. Okay, how should the exchange be structured? Now, some people will disagree. Traditionally, we keep it Joe sold the property, it's titled in Joe, he did the exchange, and he takes title as a replacement property. Then they can do their estate planning. It's considered a gift between spouses. He can put Barbara's name on the deed as well as part of their estate plan. That's a gift, and it's a non-taxable event. That way the exchange is clean when you look at the exchange. You could also do it so that Joe is holding property, and sometime prior to the exchange, property is conveyed to Joe and Barbara, for instance, if they want that in joint tenancy. And then the exchange. But what we traditionally don't like is to make those changes either right before an exchange or during an exchange. Now, there's some factors that come into play. A lot of time, if a lender is involved, they will want the property titled in both spouses' name. And so the very situation I just said will not work as far as the lender goes. The IRS recognizes this, and they will allow they will allow that. Okay, now, and so you've got that transaction where here in the middle we got Joe conveying the property out, and now we're taking title, and the exchange agreement is showing up as both of them. Traditionally, that is not a problem, but again, this is not legal advice. This is for discussion purposes only. Also, some states have a spousal requirement, so that what you have, like we're in Oklahoma, the property may be titled in Joe, but to convey good title, you've got to have the spouse sign as the spouse that they have no homestead rights in the property. So you are always going to, in that situation, have a deed that, despite how the land is being titled in one spouse's name only, you're going to have the deed coming out in both spouses. However, generally we still like to take and go however title was held, because you can always look and say, we looked at the title insurance, we looked at the title opinion, the title policy, and it shows that title was held in Joe. We're just having spouse sign out because that is a state requirement, and hence the new property goes into the surviving spouse. So those are things you need to take into consideration. how you want to do that. A lot of times that will also involve whether that property has now become joint property or not. That is a whole separate question that should be handled by the taxpayer's separate legal counsel on the consequences. Do we want do both parties own it now? Do they not? That is not part of the exchange process. So I hope that clarifies that, at least raises some issue. Again, this is for discussion purposes only. Please do not take this as legal advice, and make sure when you're in a situation like that to look very closely about how we want to do this and what feels most appropriate to you in this 1031. Hope you enjoyed it and find this content useful. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to contact us.